Hi, I'm Vicki Mizel, and I'm very grateful to the Boulder Bookstore who is allowing me to have this video question and answer about my book, Love Remembers, put up on YouTube.
What inspired you to write this book?
It was really from the successes that I was having using this memory system. I mean, kids were improving in reading comprehension and their grades were going up 1 to 2 grade levels.
Wow.
In 1983, I was having Alzheimer's people literally remember when they thought that the brain couldn't even regenerate. I was having Alzheimer's people remember.
Great.
And CEOs were getting up in front of groups and feeling more confident and comfortable because they had the memory system.
Good. That's encouraging. What kind of research did you do to create the methods you share in this book?
You know, it's been 30 years of starting out in the school system, teaching in classrooms, like 60 classrooms a year, so like 120 lessons a year through actually that started in San Diego City schools. So the kids were just soaring, you know, and they thought I was gifted. I went from being a B+ student to all of a sudden everyone thought I was a gifted genius. So that was really fantastic. And then teaching community college, teaching Alzheimer's people and older adults. And then when I moved to New York, I was teaching customer service in banks and all kinds of businesses. Teaching both as a consultant and then as a consultant in the school system as well. So all that research basically told me the brain regenerates no matter what age you are and no matter even if you have an illness. If you're sick, your whole brain isn't sick. If you've got the flu, your whole body's not sick. So you can recover from this with the increasing neural branch growth in the brain.
What first drew you to work with Alzheimer's patients?
My Uncle Bob got what they thought was Alzheimer's, and he was calling me every day in the nursing home saying, get me out of here, get me out of here. So an attorney said the only way to help your uncle, because you're a niece, not a daughter, is to prove your memory system that you're using with kids can help, you know, someone like him. And so that's when I got started teaching Alzheimer's people at a daycare center in San Diego.
What is one easy thing everyone can do every day to help prevent Alzheimer's? That's a good question.
It is a good question.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the memory system, if you've learned it or you've gone to my YouTube videos and learned it or read the book and learned it, then I highly recommend to practice the memory system 5 to 10 minutes a day with whatever you need, remembering names or special important facts that are important to you. But if you haven't, then think of one memory deep in the recesses of your mind and access that and bring in color, sound, feelings, emotion, and then use that as kind of a touchstone. And then every day, you know, check in on that. And if you feel you're losing the focus on that, then go back and practice that. It really makes a difference.
Can you talk about some of the ways the pandemic has been particularly difficult for those experiencing Alzheimer's and memory loss?
Yes. Just you're saying that makes me feel sad and makes me feel pulled in. And that's what happened to them. The loneliness, the lack of socialization, you know, the lack of camaraderie. When we're engaged with people and we're talking and we're being paid attention to, it makes you feel accepted and it makes you feel good and it is encouraging and it gives you energy. You know, I mean, I've seen people just kind of go like this to animated and alive when they're sharing or regaling stories or even acting them out, you know, improvisation. So that's been the hardest part.
What have you been reading during the pandemic to stay hopeful?
Quite honestly, I reread my own book.
That's great.
To make me feel helpful. Like, you know, the lost one, you know, during the pandemic, it's been rough because so many places were closed that I couldn't be as useful as I wanted to be. So I went and read my book to give me hope and make me feel, you know, like there's, you know, this will continue again. And I've been reading the prayers of Howard Wills. I've been reading a book called The End of Alzheimer's by Dale Bredesen. If people don't know about this, then do not settle, do not accept just keeping someone comfortable. Be open to new ideas, be open to creativity, be open to knowing that people can improve from dementia and Alzheimer's. And then reading the headlines.
Tell me his name again.
Dale Bredesen, Dr. Dale Bredesen.
Bredesen, okay. Is there anything else you want us to know about your book?
Well, I'm an unknown, but the book really is fantastic because it's 26 years of all of my teaching, my research, my practice, all the thousands of people that I've worked with. So everything that I know, I put in that book. And it's an easy read, the print is big, and the first part is all when I got injured. Pretty severely injured and lost my memory after 18 years of building a supersonic memory. It was going to the old people and teaching them, and we all got improved. We all got better. I ended up being able to work full time again, and I was teaching drama for about a decade after that.
Wow.
So to have drama and the memory, which now I put the two together, is really fantastic. So what I want people to know is that you can get better at any age, even if you don't think, if you already have a great memory. This is a wonderful method to practice, because God forbid you get hit by a car, or you end up with a stroke, or you get hit with chemicals and you have chemical dementia. These methods, memory methods, having extra foliage, neural foliage, can help you recover.
Neurofoliage.
Neurofoliage,
I
the
never
new
heard of that.
neurogenesis, they say.
Oh, that's
it's like
great.
basically tree branches in your brain.
Wow, that's great.
Tree leaves in your brain.
Yeah. Can you read us a short passage from your book?
Yes.
Okay.
And this is the book, Love Remembers. It's been republished, so you may find it on Barnes & Noble or Amazon under a different cover, but it's definitely got me. This is me, and this is Grandma. This is me, and this is Grandma Ida.
I was gonna say. Oh.
And so this is the chapter where I want to address how depression can affect the brain through loss, and unresolved grief can actually cause memory loss.
Mm-hmm.
Insight into the illness. The idea of a life becoming so changed with the loss of support that the fear causes a person to actually stop their life and unconsciously or consciously lose hope was first revealed to me when I contemplated what happened to my grandmother in the last 15 years of her life. Our Grandma Ida had been living with us in Tulsa for about 6 months because Grandpa Harry died on Memorial Day in 1963. Gary and I had lost my brother Gary and I had lost our grandfather, my mother lost her dad, and Grandma, her husband. For my dad, Grandpa was the best babysitter he ever could have found. And my dad told me years later that he looked out the window one afternoon watching Grandpa playing with my brother and me, giving us rides in the wheelbarrow. He was amazed how deeply Grandpa loved us, perhaps even more than my own father was capable of. So we were all sitting down to a wonderful dinner. My mother was a great cook. And Mom served us. We were all seated around. And about 5 minutes into the meal, Grandma burst into tears. Takta. Takta means my love in Yiddish. Mother scolded her. It's been 6 months. You didn't even get along that well. You were often arguing. It's enough already. I couldn't believe my ears. My mother never spoke that way. I don't blame my mom for her frustration. It was her loss too. But Grandma was having too hard a time at the table to eat and left for her room. I don't remember if I finished my meal or excused myself, but I was concerned about Grandma. I walked down the steps and I saw Grandma. Her feet were dangling over the edge of the bed like a young girl. She was only about 65 at the time. Her green eyes were red from crying, imagining a life without him. In the book, I'll go and share. I only have 5 minutes here. I said to Grandma, it's okay. I tried to reassure her to cry that Grandpa's gone. Grandma looked at me and said, "Mommy said no." That's how she pronounced mommy with her Polish accent. I said, "Mommy's wrong." It was very risky to defy my mother. It could mean she'd take away her special love for me. My mother could control me with a look. If she gave me the look, I was already crushed. But in that moment, I was outside of time. Something important was happening that night between Grandma and me. We had a magical relationship. I felt I was the one that could speak to her. Who else would? And I spoke firmly. No one else could hear us. "Grandma, it's okay. I miss Grandpa too." In retrospect, I realized something changed that night. Grandma had been very expressive and emotional, and she began suppressing her feelings. Whether it was conscious or not, Grandma shut down. I think she did it to be a lighter burden of my mother, as my mom couldn't afford to feel her own pain. She had my brother and I to dress and the household to run. So Grandma wrote me some beautiful poems, which are in the book. And then 8 years later, when my brother and I went to visit Grandma, we noticed that she had yellow pages in the freezer. She had candles in the refrigerator. Much of the food had rotted, hence, and we asked her about it. And she said the noises bothered her. And she would unplug the refrigerator at night. And Grandma had lived during the Cossacks, where there were midnight beatings and towns were being burned, and she had to escape. So without Grandpa and his arms around her, it was too much for her. She was too frightened, and those memories came back. So I'm going to skip now just because of time. So although Grandma's illness was physical, it had emotional components. And in Grandma's case, I feel it was triggered by her deep loss. The fear and pain became so great that one's thinking changes. And thus, over time, physical deterioration begins. This is the first time that I tracked the idea that emotions are a precursor which affect the brain so much that the body can become physically ill. There's more to it, but this really is the important part that I think people need to address that doctors just aren't talking about. So I thank you, Elizabeth. This has been wonderful and thank you, Boulder Bookstore, and for the audience watching and listening. Thank you for taking the time. And remember this book, it's called Love Remembers. And you can go to loveremembers.net, which I have a little short video on this. And I'm very proud to present this book. This is my life's work. Thank you.